Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Dessy J. I really want to speak about that Hate You Give movie. As you can see, I'm in my car headed to work, but I wanted to talk about that Hate You Give movie. And a lot of the things in the movie I thought were okay. I'll just tell you first what I didn't like about the movie. I didn't like how argumentative Khalil was with the cop when he got pulled over. I felt like Star and Khalil were both two extremes. Like, she was absolutely terrified and like super cautious, and he was absolutely like borderline irate. But it was interesting when he actually wasn't shot in response to that. And right when he reached for that hairbrush, I knew. I was like, oh, hell no. You're at a traffic stop and you're reaching into the car. He can't see your hands. It's going to be a whole problem and a half. Like, it's going to be a problem and a half. I think that's the number one rule of, like, being black. Like, make sure they can always see your hands. But I don't think when you get pulled over, you need to be as scared as Star. But I also don't, like, I've been as irate, almost as irate as Khalil before, because sometimes these officers start talking to you like you're their child and not that you're an adult, and it's like, yo, write your ticket and go. I'm not doing this with you. But I didn't think some of that was necessary. But it was interesting because he never was told why he was pulled over, and that's why, like, that's supposed to be the beginning line. Like, hello, do you know why I pulled you over? Like, that's supposed to be the beginning line. If you're not telling me why I get pulled over and you're like taking time out of my day, of course I'm gonna be upset because I'm gonna assume it's racially motivated. So that was one thing. Another thing was the girl at school, the pretty blonde girl. Oops. The pretty blonde girl that she was friends with, and the pretty blonde girl that said, "Oh, well, your friend was a drug dealer." This is always the response. It's always the response. Like, "Oh, well, this person did such and such in their past." And it's like, okay, cool. Granted, I'm sorry, when you pulled him over, did you find drugs? Was he currently selling? Like, what do you mean? Because when you stopped him, it wasn't about drugs. So how did drugs suddenly come into play? And it's a way to sort of justify, cute little munchkin. A way to justify killing somebody, a way to justify taking a life. Well, listen, he was a drug dealer, so he looks scary. And it's like, okay, but he didn't look scary, like, and then after the hairbrush incident, I'm not sure why Star was put in handcuffs as well, thrown to the ground as well. Like, I'm not sure why, because I think her intentions in that moment were very clear. Like, okay, she's not worried about anything. Then he realizes that there's not a weapon, and he still does not unhandcuff her. He's just basically like, oh shit. Like, oh shit, what? Like, no, unhandcuff me. It was appalling to watch. And then right after getting thrown in an interrogation room, and they're basically trying to get her to say something bad about her friend, like, do you know why he was there that day at the party? Why does that matter? What does that have to do with anything? Like, I don't care if he was there at the party to beat up puppies. Like, at the end of the day, you got shot. And the reason you're there for the party had no reason to do with the traffic stop. I still haven't heard for a reason for the whole movie. Ain't nobody told me one reason for this traffic stop. So I'm just like, what is that about? Like, so why did he get stopped? It's never answered throughout the movie, and I really wish it was. And it always seems like there's gray lines, and with white and blacks, white and black people, a lot of these, it suddenly is gray. And I know you're like, white and black makes right, yeah, whatever. But she even, the movie even explored the fact that her black cop uncle had some of the same prejudices as the white cop. And no, I don't think the white cop was evil or horrible or whatever, deserved to die. I don't think that. And a lot of, the only person so far that I've like, whoa, you deserve to die, is it was like George Zimmerman when he's over here signing Arizona bottles. I was like, yeah, okay, you actually deserve it. Like, whatever comes to you. And I'm just waiting for that attempt. It has not happened yet. I'm very surprised, because the amount of people that die each year, like, really, God didn't even get you? But basically he said, Star brought up a point, if the officer before shooting would have said something like hands up, Khalil would have put his hands up, because he had no malintention. He didn't have any negative intention, and the officer should have or could have aimed low instead of aiming to kill, because the officer did aim in that chest region and shot him 2 times. Nothing was pointing at him. I get it. You know somebody's holding something, but I'm not sure. But on the other hand, I have seen a bunch of routine looking traffic stops where people do pull guns and things on officers, and it's really scary. But at the end of the day, that might not be a profession for you. Like, it's honorable, yeah, but it might not be the profession for you, because it's kind of crazy. And I understand the need to be cautious, but it's also a fear mentality when it comes to dealing with African Americans, that black people are scary. I'm not saying, it's like you have white drug dealers, and most of these kingpin movies, when you get to the tippy top, it's some white guy living in a mansion. So it's like, these black drug dealers sometimes be the employees of the white drug dealers, and or other race drug dealers, and it's not, but we're the ones that are seen as violent. And it's like, okay, grant you, some people are going to be violent, some people are not going to be violent, and I think every race has their violent people and their non-violent people. Yo, the police just drove by me while I'm making this, and I was like a little shook. I don't know if y'all peeped. I was like, holy shit. Is this technically on my phone? I hope not. Okay. So every race has their violent and not violent people. So let's just leave it at that. I think that's obvious. But I also think that violent or not violent can't be determined by a look. Because if you looked at, let's say, King versus Khalil, Khalil didn't have that the gangsta vibe, and not, like, he didn't have like tattoos everywhere. He wasn't, so whatever, like, you know, I didn't get it. Like, he didn't have tattoos everywhere. It's not like he was smelling of any, like, you know, like, I don't know. It wasn't like that. So I'm just like, whatever. So another thing that was mentioned was the Black Lives versus Blue Lives Matter. I did sympathize a little bit with the friends when she did say, wow, that sucks that the cop's family is being threatened, that he's afraid to go outside, and etc. XYZ. I do think at the moment when the cop shot Khalil, he panicked and he did realize, like, oh my God, I shot an unarmed black man. And I think it was some sort of realization, like, this is what is gonna happen. I don't think he meant to do it. I don't think that But I do think it is that fear mentality. And when we're speaking about Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter, you're speaking about a job versus a race, or like you're speaking about a job versus a race. So you can easily, very easily, take off your uniform and not be a cop. Like, I get it, you're a cop. Like, I'm a teacher, whether I'm in school or whether I'm not in school. Fine, I get it. But it's not something that somebody can see across a room. It's not something that somebody could see if you get pulled over. Like, you know, it's not something as obvious as your race. You can pretend that you're not a cop. You could pretend, I could pretend that I'm not a teacher. I can. Once I leave my job, there's no reason for me to then, start teaching connotation and denotation to everybody. Like, there's no reason. I don't have to. I don't have to continue and be a teacher outside of school. You don't have to continue to be a cop outside of the precinct. You might feel some more obligation to, but nobody is forcing you. Nobody, like, you know. And if somebody has a gun to your face and says, yo, are you a cop? You could say no. Like, you could say no. It's nice, but somebody can't hold a gun to my face and ask me if I'm black and me say no. Unless I think, like, what they think, I'm finna get a baby wipe and wipe it off. Like, what could I possibly do in order to not be black? So it's like, yeah, once you take off that uniform, you get to essentially not be a cop anymore. You get to essentially walk down the street and not have anybody bother you if that's the issue, or not have anybody expect you to save them. Like, whatever it is, you get to walk down the street, no pressure, once you take off that uniform. If people are saying they feel pressured, they feel like their life doesn't matter, if you say as an officer you feel like your life doesn't matter, okay, I'm gonna say this is gonna be controversial, but as a police officer, you signed up for a job and which puts your life on the line for the safety of others. You did. Like, literally, yeah. Enforcing the law, yeah, you're putting your life on the line. Yeah, you're putting your life on the line. You literally signed up to put your life on the line. Same for firefighters. You sign up to put your life on the line. You're, like, black people, nobody signed up for it. Nobody was like, yeah, God, that looks like a great color. Give it to me. Oppression, no problem. Like, nobody signed up for it. So it's not a choice. It's not even a choice in I can take it off. It's not even a choice in I picked it. It's because honestly, if you don't want to be a cop, you could just change your career and be done with it. Just change it. You know what? I don't feel like it. I quit. Guess what? You're not a cop. 20 years from now, you're not a cop. When you retire, you're no longer an officer. You used to be, but guess what? Now you're not. 60 years from now, I'm still black. 100 years from now, I'm still black. How are we now equating the two as equal? How can I say the Blue Lives Matter and the Black Lives Matter are the same when fear for your life is sort of part of your job description? I think that would be the equivalent as a teacher saying, something, I don't want to say something as big as, oh my God, I have homework to grade, but it's like, oh my God, I have to decorate a classroom. And it's like, well, yeah, I get it. Your direct job would be teaching the kids. So maybe you might think it is just teaching. But teaching teaching requires you to have the necessary materials in order to reach the students. And sometimes those materials are going to be things to access, to create access points for your visual learners. So it's like, if somebody's coming in and they're like, oh, your room isn't decorated, I can't then be like, I'm not an art teacher. Because it's one of those hidden things that are a part of your job description. Or if you're here to decorate your room and teach kids arithmetic, and all of a sudden a kid is coming to you crying about something that happened outside of school or whatever, you could just as easily say that shouldn't be a part of my job, but it is. So I'm sorry, as an officer of the law, putting your life on the line is part of the job. It's a horrible part of the job. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that you deserve to have a gun pulled on. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying you have to be less fearful of losing your life than somebody else. I'm just saying it is part of the job. And if you are not comfortable with that part of the job, do not sign up for the job. Because guess what? In every cop movie you've ever seen, there is a shootout. Somebody is pulling a gun on that cop. You should have saw that movie and been like, actually, no thanks. Perfectly acceptable. Nobody's forcing. I don't care if you have a lineage of cops. You could have been a veterinarian. Like, you know? And there are drawbacks and things to each sort of mentality for every side. And I'm not going to say my side is completely correct. And if you have a different opinion, you can definitely just comment down below. I promise I won't get mad. But that's just it's literally just my opinion, and it can get frustrating at times when I have to hear a lot of people, even people that I consider as friends, even people that are around me, that don't get the fact that even if I can speak in a dialect that is more appeasing and more appealing to officers, more appealing to white people in general, even if I could, and I can, because clearly I don't go to work talking like this, right? Even if I could, or even if I did, it would not take away what is frightening or what is alarming about me. And the intimidation is coming from my skin color, and I cannot change my skin color, which is also, to bounce off that, I didn't even drop the black fishing video yet, but I will. The black fishing video that I'm gonna drop soon. It was annoying to see white people sort of tanning and making their skin darker, because if I hear sirens behind me, the only thing I could do is straighten up and keep my hands visible and smile. That is the only thing I can do. I cannot grab a baby wipe and start wiping off my complexion like you can if you have too much bronzer on, or like grab a brush and start straightening out my hair to be less intimidating. So it's like, y'all gonna have to get back to me on that one. So, and I know a lot of people in my videos are I've gotten a bunch of comments where it's like, oh, why do you talk that way if you're a teacher, blah blah blah. Guess what? I'm no longer a teacher once I leave that classroom. So my need to speak in perfect English, it's not there. So consider me speaking a different language. Pretend this is a completely different language, because this is the language of the streets where I grew up. So I'm not putting on a show for anyone. I no longer have to code switch, and I use YouTube as sort of my diary. So why am I going to then try my hardest in order to speak properly from my diary? This is different. Like, I don't need to do this. And it just because somebody is currently speaking a particular way does not mean they are incapable of speaking another way. I am not Cardi B. Like, I'm not Cardi B in the etiquette class, like, oh, like, that's not me. So, yeah, I'm speaking like this now, but like, I could speak in Creole if you would like. I could kick it to you in sign language if you would like. Or you know what? I can definitely speak that preferred version of English if you would like. But guess what? I don't want to. So leave me alone about it. Like, just leave me alone about it. I'm not going to. That's just it. And respect me as being multilingual, and that's it. This is a whole, as far as I'm concerned, it's a whole nother language, and you need to respect my language. That's it. And hey, if it's not another language, then guess what? Neither is patois. Neither is Jamaican patois, because it's basically English with a little spin on it. So that's all that is. And it does not in any way mean that I'm uneducated or anything like that. And if that is your perception, you are ignorant, and I don't care. Like, you're just completely and utterly ignorant. And that's that superiority that I feel like a lot of people feel. Just because somebody chooses to speak in Ebonics does not mean they are less intelligent than you. And also, you have entire novels written in Ebonics. You had a school system in Georgia attempt to teach Ebonics as a language. It is a language. It's its own language in its own right, as much as any pidgin or as much as any Creole, as much as any, like, it's its own language. So I don't want to hear it. If anything, comment down below and be like, yeah, congrats on being trilingual, multilingual, whatever. Like, do that instead. Turn your energy and put your energy into doing that instead. It's a better use of your time, because whatever else you decide to say, I'm not listening to. That's just it. Alright, guys, I'm almost at work. I'm on the highway, which is why you guys aren't getting much eye contact. I think on maybe residential streets, I'm maybe more like, hey, what's up? But when I'm pushing 60 miles an hour, I'm not doing that. I don't want to die. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know your comments on the Black Lives Matter movement, the Hate You Give movie, the Blue Lives Matter thing, and down below. And I really love the academic discourse we're about to partake in. Like, I really do. So you guys will definitely see me, your girl, Dessy J.